Hello, survivors. Before we descend into tonight's nightmare, I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for being here. Your support means more than you know. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. It keeps our community alive and growing. And leave a comment below with the name of your city. I love seeing just how far our survivor family stretches across the globe. Now, let's get into the story. My name is Marcus. Before the outbreak, before the dead learned how to walk, before the world drowned in blood and panic, I wasn't anyone special. I wasn't a soldier or a prepper or some gun-crazed survivalist. I was just a brother. That night, I was headed to St. Alden's Memorial Hospital to visit my little sister, Julia. She was 22, stubborn, bright, too smart for her own good sometimes. She'd been admitted 2 nights earlier with a severe infection. The doctor said it was nothing unusual, complications from a bad flu, but Julia had been in and out of hospital since childhood. Her immune system had always been fragile, and I couldn't stand the thought of her lying in some hospital bed alone. So I went. St. Alden's sat on the far edge of town, a looming shape of gray concrete and cold glass windows that reflected the hazy orange glow of the city lights. It wasn't a place that inspired hope, more like a fortress built to keep sickness trapped inside. When I pushed through the sliding glass doors, I expected the familiar buzz of a busy hospital, the murmur of families in the waiting room, the chatter of nurses at the front desk, the distant squeak of carts rolling down linoleum floors. Instead, silence. The front desk was abandoned. Computers blinked on screensavers. A phone sat off the hook, its line buzzing into the empty air. A half-finished cup of coffee rested on the counter, steam still curling faintly from the rim as though whoever had been drinking it had just stepped away. The smell hit me next. Antiseptic, sharp and sterile, but underneath it, something metallic, coppery, like rust or blood. "Hello," I called out, my voice echoing through the lobby. No answer. I hesitated. Something in my gut screamed to turn around, to leave. But Julia was on the 4th floor, room 403. If she was in trouble, if something had happened to her, I couldn't just walk away. I crossed the lobby, the squeak of my sneakers on the polished floor sounding deafening in the stillness. The elevators waited at the far wall. One chimed open as I approached, its interior lit with that harsh fluorescent glow. I stepped inside and pressed the button for the 4th floor. The doors closed. For a moment, everything was normal. The elevator hummed as it rose. I stared at the glowing numbers above the door. 2, 3, and then it happened. The screaming. It started faint, muffled, somewhere in the building above me. A shriek of pure terror, so sharp it made my skin prickle. It cut off as suddenly as it began, leaving a ringing silence behind. The elevator shuddered, lights flickering. For one terrifying second, everything went black. I held my breath, trapped in a metal box with nothing but my pounding heart. Then the emergency strips flickered on, bathing the car in a dim red glow. When the doors finally opened onto the 4th floor, I stepped out into a different world. The hallway stretched ahead of me, washed in the same emergency lighting. White walls glowed red. Papers littered the floor. Clipboards, charts, scattered medical gloves. A crash cart had been tipped over, its drawers spilled open. Wheelchairs stood abandoned, and blood. Dark smears streaked along the walls, as though someone had been dragged. Bloody footprints trailed in every direction, fading into the shadows. "Julia," my voice cracked as I called out. I moved down the corridor, peering into open patient rooms. One was overturned completely. Bed flipped, IV stand bent into a twisted shape. Another was filled with the sound of dripping. I stepped inside, heart hammering, and looked up. Blood leaked through the ceiling tiles, dripping steadily into a crimson puddle on the floor. I staggered back, my stomach lurching. A noise froze me in place. At the far end of the hall, something moved. A figure emerged slowly into view, shambling out of a darkened room. A man, maybe, thin, gaunt, wearing only a hospital gown, his head lolled at an unnatural angle, his mouth hung open, his eyes milky and unfocused. "Sir," I called weakly, Are you okay?" He didn't answer. He shuffled closer, bare feet slapping wetly against the floor. I took a step back. Every instinct screamed at me to run. And then he lunged. The speed shocked me. His jaw unhinged wider than humanly possible, teeth snapping, his fingers curled like claws reaching for my throat. I stumbled backward, panic surging. My hand found a metal tray on a supply cart and I swung it wildly. The tray cracked against his head, sending him staggering, but only for a second. He hissed, snapping teeth, and came at me again. I swung harder. The tray edge connected with his temple in a sickening crunch. The man collapsed to the floor, twitching, then stilled. My breath came in ragged gasps. My hands shook violently. That had been a man. A patient. But not anymore. "Hey! You alive?" The voice behind me made me whirl, tray raised like a weapon. A man in blood-smeared scrubs stood there, a fire axe clutched in his hands. He was in his 30s, glasses crooked on his face, sweat plastering his hair to his forehead. "Relax," he said, holding up a hand. "I'm not one of them." Yet I lowered the tray slowly. "Name's Doctor." "Quan," he said quickly. "You want to live? Stick close to me." I didn't argue. I just nodded. We weren't alone for long. In the pediatric wing, we found a nurse, Ramirez. Mid-40s, short and solid, with a look in her eyes that said she'd already seen too much. Her scrubs were spattered with blood, but she carried a scalpel with white-knuckled determination. With her was a child, a boy, maybe 10, small enough to hide under a hospital blanket clutched around his shoulders. His eyes were wide, glassy, staring at us but not speaking. Not long after, a security officer joined us, O'Hara. His uniform was torn, his pistol shaking in his grip. His eyes darted around constantly like every shadow held teeth. So we were five souls thrown together in a nightmare, a doctor, a nurse, a guard, a boy, and me. Just a brother trying to find his sister. I asked about Julia. "Room 403. "Doctor." Quan's face tightened. "That wing's overrun. If she was there..." He didn't finish the sentence, but I couldn't let it go. I couldn't leave her. We tried the stairwell. The moment the door creaked open, the smell hit us. Rot, thick and suffocating. Something wet dripped down from above, splattering onto the landing. Halfway down, we found the source, a body tangled in the railing, intestines looped around the bars like ropes. The face was gone, torn away. The morgue below was worse. Doors hung open, sheets pulled back, the slabs empty. We heard pounding from the freezer door, heavy, desperate, scratching, clawing. "Something's in there," Ramirez whispered. O'Hara raised his pistol. "We're not opening that." We moved past quickly, but the pounding grew louder, echoing after us as though the dead could sense our living heartbeat. Hours bled together. We ducked into surgical wings, barricaded pediatric wards, fought through corridors slick with blood. Every safe place turned unsafe within minutes. And then Ramirez got scratched. She tried to hide it, wrapped her arm in gauze, said it was nothing. But I saw her hand tremble, saw the fever sweat on her brow. When we reached ICU, it happened. Her eyes glazed over. Her breath came in ragged snarls. She lunged at Quan, scalpel flashing. O'Hara didn't hesitate. He shot her point blank. The gunshot echoed like thunder. Every infected in earshot came running. We fled downward, deeper into the hospital's guts. past signs that warned restricted access, authorized personnel only. The doors were keycard locked, but Quan hacked the panel with shaking hands. What lay beyond wasn't a hospital. It was a lab. Observation rooms with one-way glass, cages bolted to the floor, metal restraints stained dark with dried blood, files scattered across the floor. I bent to pick one up. Words jumped out at me. Viral vector, cellular aggression, regeneration, human trial subjects. Quan read over my shoulder, his face pale. My God, this isn't an accident. They were experimenting here. I dropped the file. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. We weren't just in a hospital. We were standing in the place where it had begun. An alarm blared suddenly. Sirens wailed. Red strobes painted the halls in pulsing light. Steel doors slammed shut one after another, and from behind every door they came. Patients strapped to gurneys, ripping free. Researchers in lab coats, faces chewed, still wearing ID tags. Nurses with half their jaws missing. We ran. Through surgical theaters splattered with gore, past operating rooms where bodies sat up mid-procedure, down hallways where shadows flickered and moans rose in a chorus. One by one, we fell apart. The boy vanished in the chaos, his blanket abandoned on the floor. Quan was dragged screaming into an MRI chamber, his glasses flung across the tiles, his cries cut short. O'Hara and I were the last. We burst into the main lobby, breathless. Dozens of them waited. Dozens. We barricaded the lobby doors with overturned chairs, knowing it wouldn't last. The hospital groaned around us. Fires raged somewhere above. Smoke curled through the vents. O'Hara leaned against the wall, clutching his arm. Blood oozed between his fingers. He'd been bitten. He looked at me, calm in a way only a dying man could be. "You get out," he rasped. "I'll hold him." I shook my head. "No, we can—" "Look at me," he snapped. His eyes were steady. "I'm already done. Don't waste it. Run," I wanted to argue, but I saw the truth in his face. O'Hara took a deep breath, checked his last magazine, and nodded once. "Go." He charged the horde, gunfire echoing like thunder. His shouts turned to screams, then silence. I ran, through shattered glass doors, into the night. Behind me, St. Alden's Hospital collapsed, windows bursting outward as flames consumed the dead. But not all of them. I could hear them spilling into the streets. Ahead, the city skyline burned. Sirens wailed. Helicopters thundered overhead. The hospital was gone, but the nightmare had just begun. That was the night I learned the truth about hospitals. They aren't places of healing anymore. They're tombs. And once you're trapped inside, you may never come out again. Survivors, thank you for staying with me through this story. If you made it this far, drop a comment with the city you're listening from. Tell me, would you have made it out of St. Alden's alive? Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of survival. Until next time, stay alive, stay vigilant, and never ignore the smell of blood in the halls of a hospital.